America remembered the attack on Pearl Harbor, paying tribute today to the thousands of sailors and soldiers and pilots who lost their lives on that day. 20 ships, 300 airplanes destroyed, dragging the U.S. into World War II. Ceremonies will take place next hour overlooking the submerged USS. Need to attend today's tribute in Pearl Harbor. Best to all of them. We remember that fondly for a life changed.
President Trump just tweeting a few moments ago on this. Today we honor those who perished 77 years ago at Pearl Harbor. We salute every veteran who served in World War II over the 4 years that followed that horrific attack. God bless America, tweeted the president.
If you were watching late yesterday afternoon, we just want to share this with you. George H.W. Bush finally made his way home to College Station in Texas, and there's a very touching image that went out on social media this past hour. The graveside of President Bush 41, Barbara Bush, and their young daughter died at the age of 3, Robin, and quite touching. And that brings us to the end of a monumental week here in American history.
All right, we remember all our veterans today. Thank you very much for joining us here in America's Newsroom. Have a great weekend, everybody, YouTubeville. That's it for us. Outnumbered starts now.
Fox News Alert now. President Trump is about to land in Kansas City ahead of a speech to a law enforcement conference shortly after announcing his choices for 2 critically important posts, one of those being Attorney General. You're watching Outnumbered. I'm Harris Faulkner. Here today, Melissa Francis, Fox News contributor Lisa Booth, Fox News contributor Jessica Tarlow, and break it up, make it interesting, Executive Vice President at the King's College in New York City, Brian Brinberg is here, always on time for the big news days. Welcome.
Well, why wouldn't you want to be on time for this? You've got to be. There's so much to cover, right?
Yeah,
absolutely. There's always a lot to cover.
Yeah. Right. Earlier today, and it's only noon on the East Coast, people. President Trump said he will nominate William Barr for Attorney General and State Department spokeswoman Heather Nauert to be the next U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. The president calling William Barr his first choice since day one, and Heather Nauert would replace Nikki Haley if confirmed as U.S. ambassador to the UN. John Roberts is live outside the White House with more. John, busy. Hey, Waver.
Hey, good afternoon to you, Harris. Good afternoon to everybody else there on the couch. In picking William Barr, President Trump has picked someone with enormous experience, integrity, respect, and a lot of past bipartisan support, which is very important for the confirmation process. William Barr was Bush 41's Attorney General back in 1991 to 1993. He took the job when he was only 42 years old. Classic underachiever. Here's what the president had to say about him this morning.
When I went through the process of looking at people, and he was my first choice from day one, respected by Republicans and respected by Democrats. He will be nominated for the United States Attorney General, and hopefully that process will go very quickly, and I think it will go very quickly, and I've seen very good things about him.
The big question, what impact, if any, might this all have on the Mueller investigation? Certainly Barr could not be described as a Trump acolyte. As a Bush appointee, that puts him firmly in the realm of the establishment, but he does hold some of the same points of view as the president. Last year, he wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post saying that the president made the right call by firing the former FBI director, James Comey. Barr wrote, quote, "I know of no former senior Justice Department official, Democrat or Republican, who does not view Comey's conduct in July to have been a grave usurpation of authority." And here's what Barr told Neil Cavuto in May of 2017. Listen here.
President certainly is entitled to his choice as FBI director. And while I admire Jim Comey a lot, I think he's contributed a lot to the country. He's enormously gifted. He crossed the basic line back in July.
Barr also said last year that he saw more reason to investigate Hillary Clinton than any suspected collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. Barr telling the New York Times in November of last year, quote, "To the extent it is not pursuing these matters, the department is abdicating its responsibility." The other big nomination, Harris, that you mentioned at the top, that of Heather Nauert for UN ambassador. We were told weeks ago that she was offered the job. Then it all went quiet for a while. Now it's all a done deal. She's been the spokeswoman at the State Department since the days of Rex Tillerson. Former Fox News correspondent, of course, did not have a great depth of foreign policy experience prior to joining the State Department. And at the State Department, her experience has mostly been in communications, not policy, but she's a quick study, and both the President and the Secretary of State like her very much. Here's what the President said about her this morning.
She's very talented, very smart, very quick, and I think she's going to be respected by all. So Heather Nauert will be nominated for the ambassador to the United Nations.
Now, an important difference in the job as it is described to me now, it is currently a cabinet-level position, with Nikki Haley holding equal footing to that of Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, even though the job of UN ambassador is under the auspices of the Secretary of State in the overall flow chart. But I'm told that it will go back to a sub-cabinet level position, much as it was in the Obama administration and in the Bush administration, the Clinton administration. You know, sometimes you would see John Negroponte out there for the Bush administration, but when it really got heated, you would see Colin Powell or Condoleezza Rice out there. That's the same formula this White House wants to use, put it back to a sub-cabinet level position. So Heather Nauert would do the day-to-day business, but when you got into the really big, heavy stuff, you'd see Mike Pompeo out there taking the lead. Paris?
Oh, that's an interesting detail. John Roberts, I'll wave back. Thank you very much for all the information. Good to see you, my friend. So, you know, as we look at this, let's start with William Barr. Yeah. And his relationship to the previous president and how that really plays a role.
Well, I just think this is a credibility pick. I mean, talk about choosing somebody who has credibility on both sides of the aisle, especially in this week we're celebrating George H.W. Bush and his life. I mean, this is a good, smart, play it safe, let's get the Mueller thing done pick for AG. And so I think he made a great choice on this, and I think he's going to have no trouble getting through the Senate.
You know, Jessica, I was looking at some of the things that Mr. Barr has written in the past, and with a different tone and tenor, obviously, but some of the same similar things to what the president has been critical about the Mueller investigation, and maybe even some with Matthew Whitaker. But again, the tenor and tone different, that experience playing a different role. But this really takes the air out of the balloon for investigations at the top for Democrats, because some were postured to really go after Whitaker. And as I've said all along, you may not have that.
No, you may not have that, and we were talking about that the president would be smart to move this along quickly, which is obviously what he's now planned to do. Lindsey Graham was on the Sunday shows a few weeks ago talking about William Barr. He was always at the top of the list for the formal replacement there. In terms of taking the air out of Democrat investigations, I'm not sure that's how this is going to go. As you said, William Barr has been on record saying a lot of the things similar to President Trump and Matthew Whitaker, bringing up uranium one again, saying that's more worthy of investigation than collusion.
The Democrats, all of them on the team of Robert Mueller, which, by the way, a lot of people have pointed that out.
Yeah, absolutely. But if you look at the damage that has been done to Bob Mueller and his reputation, the latest polling shows that only 8% of Republicans have faith in him and approve of Robert Mueller. That is directly because of the president's attacks on him. When you
don't think it's the far and wide reach? You don't think
Oh, I don't at all. I mean, Bob Mueller, if you talk to people who are actually holding office on Capitol Hill, they all have a lot of respect for him, and there are many Republicans on record siding with him here. So, yes, I think he will get confirmed, but it's not a slam dunk because of these comments about the Mueller probe.
But he's not asking questions that are way outside the mainstream of questions. He hasn't been hard-edged on this. He simply said the president is asking some good questions.
No, he hasn't tweeted 13 angry Democrats, but he has said that there were too many left-wing donations.
You don't agree?
From people.
There's a lot of legitimate
that there are 13 angry Democrats.
No, you know that's not the point that I'm asking.
Oh, really? Jessica,
I'm asking about how many Democrats are on
I don't think that it matters. I think that people who have that job can do their job, and Bob Mueller himself is a Republican.
But Jessica, to be fair about public perceptions on Mueller, there was also exit polling from the midterm elections showing that 54% of Americans, majority of Americans, believe that the Mueller investigation is politically motivated. In part, that's because he surrounded himself with people that have donated to Democrats. Also, you have where the investigation prior to when Mueller took over, you have people like Peter Strzok leading it who clearly had animus towards the president. So a lot of that feeds into that narrative outside of what President Trump has been saying about it. Also, Barr is not the only person that has concerns over the Russia investigation. Michael Mukasey, a former attorney general as well, has said that this investigation should have never have started to begin with, that there is no justification for a special counsel to have gotten involved. So those viewpoints aren't unique. And also remember that the deputy attorney general, Rod Rosenstein, is the guy who laid out the case to firing James Comey. So it's also not unique to feel that James Comey should have been fired.
It's not, but for some of those reasons, Barr is, I think, such a clever pick, because you have someone out there who, how could you possibly not confirm him when he's held the job before previously? How can Democrats take a shot at him? How can the never-Trumpers take a shot at him when he is, obviously a Bushy? At the same time, he does appear to agree with a lot of the president's point of views, especially where he wrote about the usurping executive power. And he's also addressed the issue of James Comey usurping the DOJ's power when he stood up there outrageously and talked about what should or should not be pursued by the DOJ, which was never his role. So this was a very clever pick on the president's part.
Good point.
Barr served as Attorney General during the first Bush administration from 91 to 93. So I want to get your last thought on that.
No, I love this pick. I think it's incredibly smart. And I also think you can try to tar and feather Barr on some of the questions he's asked. The fact is, these were very legitimate questions recognized by people of good faith on both sides of the aisle. He's not outside of reasonable. He's simply asking great questions. Exactly the guy you want sitting in this role.
All right, we'll move on. Meanwhile, we are awaiting the release today of more sentencing memos from special counsel Robert Mueller. For former Trump attorney Michael Cohen and former Trump campaign chair Paul Manafort, including the prosecutor's recommendations for prison sentences for each individual, what they should receive, which could depend heavily on each person's cooperation with the special counsel's investigation. If we just kind of take a lesson from what we saw earlier this week with Michael Flynn getting no jail time or prison time, but said to substantially have cooperated. And they are due just days after Mueller submitted that heavily redacted sentencing memo on fired National Security Advisor Flynn, saying he provided that assistance in several ongoing investigations and recommending that General Flynn, again, get no prison time. Your thoughts?
Well, I don't mean to be the Debbie Downer here. I'm not as excited about what we're going to see from the Cohen memos today, not because there isn't necessarily something that could be useful there, but if you look at what happened with Flynn, this is going to be heavily redacted. What exactly are we going to learn beyond the fact that maybe Mueller was happy with the cooperation? Great, I'm glad you're happy with the cooperation, but what does that actually mean in terms of substance? We didn't get that with Flynn. I don't see why we're going to get that here.
He wasn't happy with the cooperation of Manafort. We know that.
Of course,
and I think, one of the things that I'm looking forward to here is maybe we get some idea of where that relationship broke down, because I want to know, as you have more and more people come forward and say that they were pressured to lie for the Mueller probe, I don't know if I believe. I need to see the evidence. I need to see what we're talking about here. I would love some insight into that. When you look at the laundry list of things that Michael Cohen is accused of, my Lord, for an officer of the court, he has a very strained relationship with the law.
But the problem is,
he's got a strained relationship with the truth.
Yeah. All of it.
He does, but there is still no connection to any sort of crimes being committed in relation to collusion. And I think this week's raised additional questions about the way that Flynn was treated, because he really should have never been interviewed by the FBI to begin with. The Obama administration had concerns that he had violated the Logan Act, which no one has been prosecuted under ever, which is just a ridiculous assumption. Also, as the incoming national security advisor, he had every right to talk to Kislyak about sanctions as part of the incoming administration. So it was ridiculous for him to ever been questioned to begin with. And this is something that Chuck Grassley has flagged and has been trying to get information from the DOJ and the FBI, and has been met with resistance because they have refused to turn over the transcripts of the conversation he had with Kislyak or the interview 302s that the FBI had with Flynn, because Comey had originally said that he never thought that Flynn had lied. So there are a lot of questions with that for me.
So, Jessica, as you look at us moving into 2019, okay, and you look at Democrats getting ready to take the House, where do you put the Mueller investigation ahead?
I think it'll keep going on as it has, with very few leaks and then big weeks like this one where you get a whole lot of information, a bunch of which will be redacted, as Brian pointed out there.
So do you feel that where Senator Jeff Flake is wanting to protect Mueller in the investigation, do you feel that that's necessary? Because you didn't mention that in your answer. You think it's going to go forward?
I think it is going to go forward. I think that William Barr will let it go forward. That would be my expectation. I think that President Trump knows, or at least has been advised by the lawyers on his team who are looking out for his best interests, which I don't think necessarily when Rudy Giuliani gets on the cable news circuit is really helping him all that much, have said that you cannot stay in the way of this. He is running his counter story to the Mueller probe via Twitter. He's made that clear, and apparently there's 87 pages of a counter report already prepared. Bob Mueller will continue doing his work. I believe what happens today will matter. We will know exactly what Paul Manafort did in terms of lying to the special counsel. And Michael
Even
Cohen.
if it's heavily redacted?
I don't think so.
I don't think there's a light you could hold that up to and see the letters behind it.
I tried.
Certainly.
Real quickly, Brian, last word.
I agree with Melissa. That's exactly what we want to know. We're not going to get that. So we're going to be left with Manafort, a guy who's done stuff that doesn't seem to be related to collusion, and Cohen, a liar. We're going to get memos on both of them.
But if
Where does
there
that
are,
get us?
there are, can I just say to this no collusion point, there are emails talking about a deal with Trump Tower right in Russia, Ivanka getting in on who the designer or the architect should be there. You have rumors of promises of a $50 million apartment to Vladimir Putin, which is a violation of U.S. law to do that.
I wouldn't go based on the rumors.
Rumors.
Well,
yeah.
I'm just saying,
Bob
Mueller knows
didn't
more
happen.
than we do.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. He said he had no dealings with Russia. He was not trying to do any business. Then he tweeted, oh, it's like baby business or whatever he said. It's all inappropriate. You're running for president of the United States of America. And
Well, so what about
I can't wait till we talk about the Clinton Foundation later in the show.
Well,
That's all I can say. I'm
Russia
saving
as
it.
well.
That is my
Saving
thought.
it.
Interestingly enough,
Yes.
William Barr has talked about that as well.
Yeah.
All right, we'll move on. James Comey on Capitol Hill for testimony behind closed doors. So, what can we expect in the standoff between the fired FBI director and House Republicans? Plus, despite a positive jobs report, Wall Street sharply lower right now amid fears of a trade war with China. How the arrest of a top Chinese executive could throw those talks off track. Stay close.
This program is brought to you by Ebates, where it pays to shop everywhere. Join for free today.
I do quite a bit of holiday shopping, and I use Ebates for all of it.
I earn cash back just by doing the shopping I was going to do anyway.
I use that cash back to buy more gifts, or actually a gift for myself.
Join today and get a $10 bonus at ebates.com.
Your insurance rates skyrocket after a scratch so small you could fix it with a pen. How about using that pen to sign up for new insurance instead?
For drivers with accident forgiveness, Liberty Mutual won't raise their rates because of their first accident. Switch and you could save $782 on home and auto insurance. Call 1-888-764-2147 for a free quote today. Liberty Mutual Insurance.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
George woke up in pain, but he has plans today, so he took a leave this morning.
Hey, Dad.
If he'd taken Tylenol, he'd be stopping for more pills right now. Only Aleve has the strength to stop tough pain for up to 12 hours with just one pill. Tylenol can't do that. Aleve. All day strong, all day long.
Check this Sunday's paper for extra savings on products from Aleve.
Okay, everyone. Our mission is to provide complete balanced nutrition for strength and energy.
Great tasting Ensure with 9 grams of protein and 26 vitamins and minerals. Ensure, now up to 30 grams of protein for strength and energy.
I have fantastic news for veteran homeowners who need money for their family. With our service, veterans like us earn the powerful VA home loan benefit that lets us borrow up to 100% of our home's value. At New Day USA, that can mean a lot more money, especially if your home has gone up in value. On average, our veterans take out $54,000. The New Day 100 VA loan lets you refinance your mortgage, consolidate your high-rate credit card debt, get cash, and lower your payments by over $600 a month. And because New Day USA has been granted automatic authority by the VA, they can say yes when banks say no. They look at your whole financial picture, not just your credit score. They even do all the VA paperwork for you, so your loan could close in as little as 30 days. So if you're a veteran and need money for your family, call New Day USA.
Go to newdayusa.com or call 1-855-429-4863.
Helping families with mesothelioma is all we do. My firm has been offering a free book on mesothelioma for over 10 years. Since that time, hundreds of people with mesothelioma have trusted us to represent them. We have local offices throughout the U.S. and there is no risk to you. Mesothelioma really is all we do. Call us at 1-800-642-9300. That's 1-800-642-9300. Or go to mesoonlylaw.com.
Looking for a family-size solution to vision care?
Lunches?
Yep. Yes. Check.
Homework?
Got it. Your glasses.
Oh, thank you, VSP.
Take a second look.
Your shoes?
With clarity when it matters most. VSP Individual Vision Plans offers coverage you can buy on your own. So your family's Monday mornings are more manageable. Go to VSPdirect.com to see better. For life, for less.
All right, we are looking at Air Force One right there. President Trump landing in Kansas City. This is ahead of remarks that he's going to make at the Project Safe Neighborhoods National Conference. This is put on by the Department of Justice today. And they are talking about how to keep neighborhoods, obviously, around the country safe, how to tailor local law enforcement to make it fit the community that it's actually in. This is on the heels earlier today of him talking about, of course, making the announcement that he's going to nominate William Barr for Attorney General and Heather Nauert as ambassador to the UN. So we will keep an eye on those remarks as they're made and bring you all the news from it. Another Fox News alert to another rocky day on Wall Street. Even after unemployment held steady at 3.7%, businesses added 155,000 jobs in November, slightly below expectations, but still an indication that the economy is growing. But amid high anxiety over a trade dispute with China, the Dow right now deep in negative territory. Again, it has been a wild day today. A lot of swings this week, a lot of swings today. Adding to all of that, we are getting new details on the arrest of a top Chinese executive, which could throw a wrench in the U.S.-China trade talks. The Justice Department reportedly seeking the extradition of the CFO of the Chinese telecom company Huawei. She was detained in Canada last Saturday. That is the same day that President Trump struck a trade truce with China's president. But despite all the drama, President Trump says the trade talks are going well, tweeting, "Statement from China. The teams of both sides are now having smooth communications and good cooperation with each other. We are full of confidence that an agreement can be reached within the next 90 days. I agree." Very interesting turn of events. I don't buy for a second. I know that that on Fox Business, the president's representative said this had, the two items were unrelated, and he didn't necessarily know what was going on, or he didn't know what was going on. I don't buy that for a second, because this speaks directly to one of the issues that's being negotiated, the theft of intellectual property and also espionage with Huawei equipment in other countries, and with Iran and breaking the sanctions. Yeah,
I agree. From a substance standpoint, these things are definitely related. Huawei is kind of prime example number one of the thing that the Trump administration is very concerned about. That said, the question is, will it get in the way of trade negotiations? I don't think so, because I think China badly wants a deal, and I don't think they're going to make this an issue that gets in the way of a trade deal. If President Trump says we want to get something done, here's what we need. So yes, they're related. No, I don't think it has to be a big stumbling block, but I don't know if Wall Street believes me, because we've seen the ups and downs, and I think investors are still concerned about this issue when it comes to the trade war.
Yeah. They're focused on that. They're also focused on what the Federal Reserve is doing. So there's a lot of cross currents out there. Do you think that the president is taking the right tact with China? I bet no.
Well, Melissa, you're correct. I think no. I do think it is interesting to look at it as, can these two things be going on at once? Because that's something we're always asking for, the walk and chew gum way to running a country. There are a lot of things going on there. I think that, the request for extradition from Canada, I don't know how that goes, but after what happened with ZTE, PE a few months ago, where it was kind of looked at as that was going to be the one pass from the administration to the Chinese. It's kind of time for someone to get their due if they are, in fact, spying on us and infiltrating equipment and violating the Iranian sanctions and whatnot. So I'll be interested to see where it goes and where the trade talks conversation goes, because after the G20 summit, it seemed as though people didn't really think that the president got what he was supposed to get out of President Xi, and that it was a disappointment. So I think he needs to focus on that and let the folks who are dealing with Huawei deal with that on their own.
See, I think that this is part of putting pressure on them. He's saying, look, we are not going to stand for this any longer. And as far as China, I mean, you look November 1st, they've already given in. They've already lowered tariffs on 1,500 products as we've raised them. I mean, he's already getting results.
Well, I think the big question for President Trump is what happens between now and 2020 and what political pressure does he end up feeling. I filled in for my friend Buck Sexton.
I've got to break in with breaking news. And so we're seeing the president exit Air Force One, come down the stairs and get ready to hold a speech at the Project Safe Neighborhoods National Conference in Kansas City, Missouri. You know, I found it interesting that the U.S. District Attorney of Kansas, Stephen McAllister, was asked about the president's speech a short time ago, and he said, look, we're hoping that the president can address what is going on with crime in this country and the 120 or so homicides that have already happened in Kansas City. We want him to address that. But he says, quote, the president is the president, so he can address what he chooses. So we've been talking about some of the things that have happened this morning with this president, the nominations for Attorney General and the UN Ambassador, William Barr and Heather Nauert, respectively. The president getting through this line of dignitaries who were meeting him on the tarmac pretty quickly for him. You know, sometimes he can linger, and in fact, often you will hear us anchoring and then stop talking so we can hear the president. But right now, there's not a lot to tune in for. He is expeditiously making his way to the car to go talk about several things. And I think that that the district attorney in Kansas might be right. He'll talk about those things with the Project Safe Neighborhood. He'll also, perhaps, we expect him to bring up some other news-making items today.
This is also something that's been at the top of his agenda. I mean, this conference is about local law enforcement and local prosecutors. And it's about how do you make your city safer? What are things that can be done right away in order to lessen violence on streets and neighborhoods? One of the issues that they're talking about is the idea of, and one size fits all doesn't fit every community, that it's about drilling down on what's going on in your community and addressing it specifically. This is a city that wants help. Your thoughts?
Well, and it's also very consistent with the president's platform. I mean, from the beginning, he talked about the need for change in local communities, law enforcement, economic change. These things go hand in hand. I love to see him on this issue because it's a grassroots issue. It hits at middle America where help is desperately needed. And the kinds of conversations that are happening here are intensely productive. So he's right to focus on this. And I hope he stays on it, even with the big national news. He's right to talk about it here.
Well, there's a potential that he might, because remember, he's rolling out his nomination for the highest attorney in the land.
No coincidence.
Yeah, William Barr. I also want to point out the fact that Matthew Whitaker was on stage at this very conference because it's been going on since Wednesday, as was Deputy A.G. Rosenstein. And I've got some notes, and I'm not going to get all into it with you, but I just found it interesting that the man who was criticized so heavily by Democrats as not being the right pick was on a stage just days before the president would also talk about those issues, which were a part of his promises made, promises kept mantra. We're losing control of the live picture as the president gets into the motorcade, as you can see. It will be held at the Westin Crown Center in Kansas City, Missouri. There we go. We got the live picture back. And as that motorcade exits and makes its way to the venue, keep watching. Outnumbered over time in the next hour or so. We expect the president to take the stage, and we'll have his remarks and bring you all the news.
Is he coming back out here? He was supposed to get in? And no, he's not. So this is so classic. How many times have we sat on this couch and watch this? He can't resist. We have watched this so many times, Harris.
So what was interesting, too, is that's probably why the camera lost control.
Right.
Where is he going? Had to follow him getting out of the car.
He's like, no, I see people I want to
This is the point where I'm going to ask our producers in the booth to listen out and tell me if we can listen. All right. So, as often happens, and you see the Make America Great Again hats in Kansas City, Missouri, and also I know from living there, the line that separates the two is a thin line along Mission and right in the Country Club Plaza area. And so you'll see MAGA hats from both sides, from Missouri and Kansas, and they'll come out. But the president, you know, this is the first time we've seen him emerge before a boisterous crowd because this nation has been in mourning the last few days. And so we see the president now doing something different. He was the consoler-in-chief. He attended the National Cathedral, Washington Cathedral funeral for the former 41st president of the United States. And now he's on the ground talking to Americans and smiles and kind of shifting gears, if you will. So we will continue to watch this. At some point, I have all confidence that he will get back into the motorcade.
Could take a while.
And, yeah,
Could take a while.
And will pull away and head to the Western Crown Center to give his speech to the Project Safe Neighborhoods National Conference in Kansas City. Let's take a quick break so we can catch the action and the talk on the other side. Stay close.
This holiday, give the gift of Pelotons.
How did you know?
Right?
If you have a child whose curiosity has no limits, give them Little Passports. Every month, a new Little Passports package is sent with their name on it, loaded with hands-on projects, puzzles, and activities. It's the perfect gift. Buy now at littlepassports.com.
Must be 18 years or older to order.
Every road in the world is now an information superhighway.
And the car has become an accessory to the smartphone.
Ride-hailing, car-sharing, carpooling, mobility services are proliferating. And there's a new generation who don't seem to want to own cars in the first place. It all means massive disruption to the car industry, cities, businesses and investors. I'm Martin Briggs for Bank of America Merrill Lynch.
To look at me now, you don't see psoriasis. You see clear skin.
Cosentyx can help people with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis find clear skin that can last. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentyx. Before starting, get checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor about an infection or symptoms if your inflammatory bowel disease symptoms develop or worsen, or if you've had a vaccine or plan to. Serious allergic reactions may occur.
How sexy are these elbows?
Ask your dermatologist about Cosentyx.
In an era of online retail where everything is just a few clicks away, buying a car should be no different. That's why at Carvana, you can buy a car 100% online. We made it easy to browse, view, and buy from over 10,000 cars. You can even trade in your old car, all while binge-watching your favorite TV show. Afterwards, we'll deliver your car to you. Or you can pick it up from one of our car vending machines. Either way, your car comes with a 7-day return policy. So grab a seat, relax in your comfy pants, and enjoy the new way to buy a car at Carvana.
Hi, my name is Sam Davis, and I'm going to tell you about exciting plans available to anyone with Medicare. Many plans provide broad coverage and still may save you money on monthly premiums and prescription drugs. These are affordable, all-in-one plans that help pay for doctor visits, hospital stays, and emergency care, but they also include prescription drug coverage. In fact, last year, Humana Medicare Advantage prescription drug plan members saved an estimated $6,900 on average on their prescription costs. Call a licensed Humana sales agent or go online to find out if you could save on your prescription drugs. This plan delivers coverage for the 3 things you may care most about: prescription drug coverage, doctor visits, and hospital stays, plus potential cost savings on your plan premium. Humana has a large network of doctors and hospitals, so call us or go online to find out if your doctor is part of the Humana network. Ready to learn more? Call the number on your screen for this free, fact-filled decision guide. There's no obligation, just good information.
Call the toll-free number on your screen now. You'll learn all about a Humana Medicare Advantage plan and how it compares with your plan. With most Humana plans, you get coverage for prescription drugs, doctor and hospital visits, and more. All for a $0 monthly plan premium in most areas. Most Humana Medicare Advantage plans even include dental and vision coverage. And most Humana Medicare Advantage plans include the Silver Sneakers Fitness Program at a local fitness center.
So call or go online to find out if your doctor is part of Humana's large network of doctors and hospitals, and see if a Humana Medicare Advantage plan is the right plan for you. Pick up the phone and call the number on your screen. The call is free, and licensed Humana sales agents are standing by. So call now.
Fox News alert, we are still watching the president get into the motorcade to head to his speech. As he does that and moves on, we will bring you the news. For now, here's what's also making news. Former FBI Director James Comey is testifying behind closed doors on Capitol Hill today. It's part of a House GOP investigation into the FBI and DOJ's handling of the Clinton email and Russia investigations. Lawmakers on the Judiciary and Oversight Committees seizing what could be their final opportunity to question Comey before Democrats take control of the House next month. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge, very busy already this morning on Capitol Hill with the news being made. Catherine, bring us up to speed.
Well, that's right here. So we've had several headlines in the last hour. The first has to do with the timing. Earlier, we were told that the closed-door interview could go well into the evening, but now we're told that there will be a hard stop about 4 hours from now. And in the last half hour, we've heard from a Republican congressman who says the former FBI director has two attorneys in the interview. One's a personal attorney. He said the other is from the Justice Department, and he alleged the Justice Department lawyer is instructing Comey not to answer a lot of their questions. Here's Daryl Issa.
Director Comey is in there with two attorneys. The one that's from the Department of Justice has repeatedly, I would say at his gleeful acceptance, instructed that he will not be answering a great many questions that are clearly items at the core of our investigations.
And Issa said that based on how the afternoon develops, that he anticipates the Republicans will push to bring the former FBI director back to Capitol Hill for another session because they feel that their questions have not been answered. Meantime, Republican Mark Meadows says that there is also a push to bring the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein to the Hill. This has been the subject of really weeks of negotiation between the Republicans on the Hill and the Justice Department. But what Meadows said today is significant. He said they have heard witnesses who have evidence that really conflicts with Rosenstein's public statements that he was joking when he talked about recording the president and invoking the 25th. Here's Congressman Meadows.
Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein's public statements that he did not really talk seriously about taping the president and invoking the 25th Amendment is not consistent with a number of other sworn testimony or transcribed interviews that we've had.
In addition, we've heard from Democrats who have been very against this closed-door transcribed interview with the former FBI director. They have been advocating for public testimony, but as you know, there are limits to public testimony, which is 5 minutes aside per lawmaker versus this behind closed-door session, which is an hour for Republicans, then alternating with an hour for Democrats. Here are the Democrats from earlier today.
The entire purpose of this investigation is to cast aspersion on the real investigation, which is Mueller. There is no evidence whatsoever of bias at the FBI or any of this other nonsense they're talking about.
It's just been a wild goose chase. It's been a rerun of the same questions and answers through multiple interviews. I like TV reruns, but this is getting a little ridiculous.
What I've been able to learn through one of my contacts this morning is that Director Comey has taken a number of questions where he said he simply could not recall the documents in question, specifically the document that opened the counterintelligence investigation into the Trump campaign in late July of 2016. And of course, this is the seminal document, but he says this was something that happened well below his pay grade, Harris.
All right, Catherine Herridge, a complete scoop for us, and we will move on. Appreciate it. Thank you. Brian, James Comey, just a couple of quick observations. For one, this is really going to be behind closed doors.
Yep.
Right?
It is.
And
He's there.
he said that he wouldn't agree to that, yet did he capitulate, change his mind? What do we know?
I think he knows what he's doing. I mean, look, the report that we just got from Catherine is that he's not answering a lot of questions on big issues. He can't recall the document. So then who cares if he's sitting back there saying, I can't answer that because I don't remember, or I won't answer that because my two attorneys sitting next to me say that I can't. What are we going to really get from this? Are we going to get anything on Clinton? Are we going to get anything on the FISA court?
Are we willing to accept that the former director of the FBI has a faulty memory?
My point exactly. I mean, you can't remember.
I wasn't trying to make a point. I'm just asking the question.
I think you're making a point. I mean, we've been sitting here for months talking about, really, when you get in front of Congress, you can't remember the thing you knew they wanted to ask you about? We're not getting anything from this, and we're at the point where Democrats take over next year. We won't get any more out of this.
I am going to have the pleasure of having Darrell Issa on my 4 p.m. show on Fox Business, little plug there, because I want to know, he's the one that came out and said that Comey's lawyer was gleefully saying that he would not answer a whole bunch of questions. And I will be asking him which questions were those that he wasn't answering, and what did you think the answer was? What is it that you're looking for? Because there are still a lot of questions out there specific to, I would say, the Mueller probe, in terms of if you knew there were people in charge of the probe who were desperate to stop Trump, or testified. Why did you know that when you went ahead and sought the FISA warrant? And did you know that the dossier was fishy and discredited at that point?
Yeah, I mean, we know those things about those employees because they use their work phones to talk to each other in text messages.
I would love to know more about Flynn and getting to the bottom of that situation. And even though this is behind closed doors, my understanding is a transcript is going to be made available. And I think the reason why Republicans didn't want open session was that you're limited to a certain amount of time to ask questions. So now they can actually dig into some of these important interviews. And I found it really funny because Eric Swalwell was on CNN this week saying President Trump could have avoided all of this if he hadn't fired James Comey. Well, guess who was saying that James Comey needed to be fired? Democrats the entire time. Rod Rosenstein, Michael Horowitz, the DOJ Inspector General, said that Comey was insubordinate. Yeah, exactly. Everyone. So he did what everyone wanted him to do.
Yeah, it's
Hillary
like
Clinton would have done the same
every
thing.
Scooby-Doo element or episode. It's like, I would have gotten away with it if it hadn't been for those darn kids.
Well, that's really the point when you say when Democrats take over the House January 3rd that we won't be looking at James Comey anymore. That isn't true because Democrats have a few axes to grind with James Comey as well. I mean, when you say I want to know what happened with the Clinton email, or I want to know what happened in the Mueller probe and Lisa Page and Peter Strzok, Democrats want to know how come you came out there and maligned Hillary Clinton, but you didn't say anything about the fact that you had an open investigation into the Trump campaign.
Go for it.
So
Ask them.
I'm with you.
Jessica, I like it.
And I just want to say Jim Comey didn't capitulate completely. He wasn't going to get the open air session, but he did get not only the transcript, but that he can comment about what went on behind those closed doors.
I think he will.
And sober members of Congress. Yes, write a book about it.
Radio and so on. Brian, I promise I'll hit you next time. We got to move. I see you sitting up. A bipartisan group of senators is ready to go against the White House on Saudi Arabia. What lawmakers are planning and the potential fallout of that. Again, this is over the Washington Post columnist who was killed, Jamal Khashoggi. Stay close.
I'd like to take a moment to address my fellow veterans, because I know so many of you have served our country honorably. One of the benefits that we as a country give you as a veteran is the eligibility for a VA loan for up to 100% of your home's value. If you need cash for your family, call New Day USA. With automatic authority from the VA, we can say yes when banks say no. Give us a call.
Call now, 1-855-376-1361.
You might take something for your heart or joints, but do you take something for your brain? With an ingredient originally discovered in jellyfish, Prevagen has been shown in clinical trials to improve short-term memory. Prevagen, healthier brain, better life.
Sometimes you just know when you've hit a home run. That's why I use Blue Emu Pain Relief Spray. It's fast-acting, odor-free, and it soothes all my aches and pain. And if you're like me, you'll also love the non-greasy, deep-penetrating Blue Emu Cream. Take it from me. It works fast and you won't stink.
There are over 7,000 service members who were killed protecting our country since 9/11. The Tunnel to Towers Foundation is now delivering mortgage-free homes to those Gold Star families.
I am Nancy Gass, the wife of Staff Sergeant Jerry Gass Jr. My husband was 33 when he died in the line of duty in Afghanistan. The day those two officers arrived, at my door was the worst day of my life. I moved 17 times in the last 18 years. When I lost my husband, Jerry, my world fell apart. Not only did I lose my husband and my partner, I lost my best friend. When he died, I thought, where do I go now?
The foundation is committed to delivering a mortgage-free home to Gold Star families with young children. There is a waiting list of over 1,000 deserving families. Every time you see a home delivered to another Gold Star family, you can be proud and you can say that you helped make that happen. Like Jerry Gass. Army Ranger Tommy McPherson was also a hero who died in the line of duty for protecting our country.
My husband, Army Ranger Tommy McPherson, was fatally wounded in combat. After Tommy's death, everything was a blur. But now I can see my future so much more clear after getting the keys to my mortgage-free home from the Tunnel to Towers Foundation.
You know what we do for our fallen first responders. You know what we do for our injured service members. This is our contract with our military. That when you go to serve your country, when you give your kids a kiss goodbye and you do not come home, we are going to take care of your family. We are going to give them a mortgage-free home.
The Tunnel to Towers Foundation is now delivering mortgage-free homes to over 1,000 Gold Star families with young children who are waiting for a home. I'd like to ask you to contribute $11 a month to support their effort.
Please call 1-844-BRAVEST or go to tunneltotowers.org.
Have you forgotten?
Hi, I'm William Devane. You've heard me talk about how smart it is to buy gold, but you know what else is smart? Silver. There's a growing global demand for silver, so don't miss out. I buy my silver from Roslyn Capital. Buying silver has been an important way to accumulate wealth for thousands of years and a great way to start investing. There are silver coins, silver bars, and even full bags of silver, and Roslyn has them all. And with Roslyn, you're always guaranteed the best prices, the fastest shipping, and best customer service around. I like that, and you will too. So when it comes to buying gold or silver, call Roslyn Capital.
Call now for your free gold, silver, and IRA transfer kits. And for a limited time, Roslyn is offering a $1,000 discount free to qualifying new customers. Call 800-630-8900. 800-630-8900. 800-630-8900.
Welcome back. Senators are closing in on what many see as a rebuke of President Trump over Saudi Arabia, with support growing for tougher action against the Saudis after the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. On Tuesday, CIA Director Gina Haspel briefed lawmakers for the first time on the Khashoggi murder. Here's what some of the senators had to say about that.
I think we should have a thorough reexamination of our relationship with the Saudi government. That would be one of a number of strong steps we could take. But I think there's a broader menu than just that simple step.
We espouse American values all around the world, and to say that, well, no, they're going to buy some arms from us, and so, you know, it's okay to kill a journalist sends exactly the wrong message about who we are as a country. And that's why you're seeing bipartisan support for somehow speaking to this.
Melissa, I'm going to start with you. Do you think this legislation from Congress and congressional action will amount to anything more than a public rebuke and a slap on the wrist for President Trump?
No, it is so hollow, and it's exactly like when the UN gets together and they condemn someone and then they have no way of following through and they don't do anything about it. They just stand out there and make a statement. This is very similar. If they wanted to do something, they could push for actual action like sanctions or, pulling back on the war in Yemen, various things, not going ahead with the arms sale. I think that they understand the dual relationship and the problem that we have with the enemy of my enemy. I mean, in the battle with Yemen, for example, it's a proxy war with Iran, and there is a possibly greater enemy. At the same time, you can't ignore the human rights abuses. So it's a really challenging issue, but what they're doing there is, political, pathetic, and hollow.
Well, that's very strong rhetoric.
Yeah.
So, Brian, Melissa mentioned sanctions. So, President Trump, there has been sanctions against 17 individuals involved in the killing of Khashoggi. Did those go far enough?
No, I don't think they've gone far enough. I do think from an economic standpoint, we need to look at what's going on with Saudi Arabia. And for one, we need to recognize that the dynamic has changed. Oil is not the same issue today that it was 20, 30 years ago. And I think we're still acting like Saudi Arabia is the Saudi Arabia 20, 30 years ago when it comes to oil. That's changed in part because the president has allowed us to use more of our natural resources, our oil resources. That's really helpful from a diplomacy standpoint. I'd like to see us realign our diplomacy with Saudi Arabia based on that real economic reality today, not the old reality.
Because we're also using our resources differently in this country, right? So we have more that we can generate at home, but our usage is also different too.
Yeah.
And that relationship, though, I think it goes back to what Melissa was saying. It really has to do with what we accomplish in the region on the ground, right?
It's more about that than oil.
And the humanitarian crisis that we are watching unfold in Yemen is unlike any that we're seeing across the world probably in the last 20 years, 25 years. It's very troubling. People are starving to death. And so any type of pressure that you can apply in that situation. Plus you have Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula that is massing on the ground too. And so we know that they are one of the biggest two threats right now in the region for American interests. So we have to be able to control our interests in Yemen. And I get it, but they're killing and destroying the lives of journalists all over the world.
And that isn't new, right? And that's part of this. I'm glad that we're having these conversations. It's incredibly sad. I think it's important that we do. The war in Yemen has been going on for years, and we haven't cared much about it until this happened. I'm glad that we do. There's a little bit in terms of support for the war in Yemen in this bill, but generally I agree that it's pretty toothless, which makes me think that everyone actually should get on board and at least sign it to send a signal to President Trump that we need to be doing more than we have and that we shouldn't be making public statements like we have a really big arms deal with them and that's a good thing. You can't be sending that signal to people like MBS and others like him across the world that we will continue to do business with you even if you kill one of our own.
We've got to go, Jess.
Green card holder before people attack me. I know he's not American.
Okay. All right. We got to go.
Wow.
Well, new accusations against the Clinton Foundation. Congressman Mark Meadows citing whistleblowers who came forward with evidence suggesting wrongdoing. So what will this new information reveal? We'll discuss it next, so stay tuned.
If you are considering silver for your savings and retirement accounts, here is an amazing offer from Lear Capital. Because it comes with a government guarantee, it's IRA eligible with the price